coaches. Oh, thanks, Coach Matt. Just want to acknowledge all of our coaches and just say just a tremendous job with everything this year across all of our clubs, across our 5 teams. Just tremendous job. Our club this year is 82 riders and 65 coaches. We're by far the collective in the group, and you'll see some numbers soon. Pickle's releasing an interesting promotion through Trek, and it gives you some insight when you click in there as to teams and numbers. But more importantly, tons of smiles, tons of happy kids and parents. Those of you that jumped in head first this year with us, just really great stuff. Thank you for trusting us, and we're having a great time. So just great stuff all around. Thank you everybody for your contributions. Just amazing to see as we start our 7th season here, how far we've come along. So great job, everybody. So tonight we're gonna try to be quick here. Really two speakers, myself and Jill Vanderpool. I'm going to speak for 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to look at Granite Hill, the property and the camping area. We're going to review the course. There's some digital things out there that we can look at, including this video. And then Jill is going to talk about the schedule for Saturday and Sunday. Talk a little bit about, what happens during the day and how coaches facilitate things that are going on. And then we'll wrap up with just some administrative things about race and ride preparation. We'll talk a little bit about volunteering for pickle roles. I anticipate 1,500 people at this event this weekend. Last I checked, the league at large had almost 1,300 kids riding. So if you take 2/3 of those kids and then parents and families, I think you got a big group. There's a lot going on. It's an awesome weekend. Most of what you'll see happens through volunteers. So if you're eager to see what happens behind the scenes with Pickle, we'll talk a little bit about that. And it's just really important. When we can, we chip in and help out the league. So and then we'll this is super social, super chill. If you have a question, please just shout it out. This is not a formal presentation here. This is a conversation. So
that video just went by the camping ground, Hamburger Hill, FYI.
It did, didn't it? You know what, Ian, that is great. Let's go start there. I'm gonna rewind a little bit. So you can see here, I'll show everybody the broader view, but this is the back side of the campground. So what we're seeing here to the right is Burger Hill and the parking lot and trucks and cars and campers. This is where we will be stationed, all of us, all 5 of our teams through Independence. We're going to be here on this hill, Burger Hill. And as the course rolls on by, there's some picnic tables and some signs. I think up here you even see if anybody can spot themselves there. I can't see who that was, but those are all Independence, Somont, Philly West people there. I don't remember who was over here on this side of Burger Hill, but we're not going to be over here. We'll be in that first section. So we'll come back to this video in a second. So I want to just give a lay of the land first as far as Gettysburg. So everybody knows Gettysburg, middle, south central PA. It'll take us probably 2.5 hours to get out there whenever you're coming out. And just west of Gettysburg. So there's lots to do, in and around Gettysburg if you need to jump out and do something else. But everything is self-contained at the campground. So the idea here is you pull in Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and you can, if you're, camping and well prepared, you can stay there the whole weekend. There's great facilities, bathrooms, showers, there's a pool, and there's plenty to do, plenty to watch and hang out. As I zoom in on the map here, you can start to see the property kind of come to life. So this is the long driveway into the property. Then if you look back here, if you can see my cursor, that is Burger Hill. So the trail that the kids were riding in that video was along this back line here. This was parking where we're all going to need to park our cars, and then we put our tents all in through this kind of wooded area here. I will make a note. We have so many people camping at Burger Hill, we cannot have our cars next to our tents this year. There's just too many tents that need to be set up. So all the cars are going to need to be parked out here in this grassy area. And I'm going to need everyone's cooperation with that. It's going to be an awesome weekend, lots of people, but unlike years past, we can't have our cars intermingled in this grassy tree area with our tents. Kind of stepping out a little bit, and there is a map, a better map that Pickle provided, but the course itself basically goes around the entire perimeter here of the property, with the main action, start and finish. We call it the infield, for those of you that are new, happening down here in this big grassy area right in here. So literally you ride your bike or you walk down from Burger Hill, this gravel road, and boom, you're right in the middle of the action. So it's super close. Everything's really, really, really tightly packed in there. But it's awesome. Let me make sure everybody knows the Pickle website. So I'm gonna open up a new tab. So I'm going to be bringing up some links that are on the Pickle website. So if you haven't been to the state website, pamtb.org, this is where you're going to go for all the information about the state events. You're going to go into what's happening, Pickle event schedule. You can see all the events are listed here. Granite at Granite Hill has its own detail page. And all of your key information, I know this is kind of a little bit hard to get, a little bit hidden. All the key bits of information you're going to need is here in these little drawers. Okay. Jill will be talking shortly about the event schedule. What I want to do is I'm going to be talking about the course maps and the infield. So this particular map here, this is what we call the infield. This is a Pickle graphic that they put together. So it's a zoom in of that grassy area that I was just highlighting. Again, so folks that are new, folks that are returned, you're familiar with this. Folks that are new, this is kind of the lay of the land. Again, this is where all the main action is, start and finish. At the same time, we have a great spot back at Burger Hill, as you saw in the video. Great spectating spot there. Down here, we have the start and finish lines. We have the staging chute. We have pit zone. That's where the riders and coaches set up our tents and our gear. Pit zone is only for riders and coaches. Parents, I'll say, are not allowed in pit zone. What that means is we can't have parents loitering around all day in pit zone. It would be too many people. So you can come in, pop in, say hi, drop something off, but unfortunately it's riders and coaches only. You can see the course will head out to the perimeter here to the right. It'll circle around and it'll come back here on the left side. We'll talk a little bit about the differences between middle school and high school in a second. And then various service tents down in this area. You can kind of see the legend here. There's course marshaling tents and merchandising tents and check-in tents, and Grit and Trek will be there. We'll talk about the feed zone in a little bit. Different than the pit zone. The feed zone is where riders can exchange water bottles and grab food, but only in that one spot. So that's a zoom in of the infield. By the way, any questions, please yell them out. Any coaches that have any additional commentary, please, put it on the table. What I want to show next is a little bit about the actual course. So if you go to, where are we at here? Okay, if you go to the Pickle website, and they tend to have these out every event. I don't know why the middle school course is not yet mapped. So we have a coaches meeting at 9 p.m. So we will ask about that. We do have the high school map, and if you click on that, it opens up a website called Ride with GPS, very popular GPS tracking. And you can see here what the high school course looks like. So let's see, let me full screen this. That's a little bigger, maybe. So you can actually see here the full details of the course. So again, Burger Hill is back here at the back of the property. The infield is down in here. So this is where everything starts and finishes. And you can see the red line. The red line is the high school course. So lots of opportunities to see the riders, especially again at the back, on the side, even some of these spots back in the woods, you kind of get access to. This particular map for high school is 3.2 miles and about 220 feet of total climbing elevation. So when your student athlete asks you, well, how long is the course? High school, 3.2 miles, 220 feet. High schoolers will do multiple laps, depending upon their classification. Typically that is announced, formalized the day of the race, but it will be 2, 3, or 4. Sometimes varsity will do 5 laps. Depends on how the course is running. You could imagine if it's muddy and messy, we might lean toward less laps. If it's super dry and fast, we might lean toward more laps. For middle school, and that's probably the bigger area of questioning, middle school will be shorter than this. I would think maybe 2 miles. And what the league does is, you see some of these sections here, some of these kind of call them flower petals, right? They'll cut out sections of the high school course to make the middle school course shorter. So maybe this little loop here gets cut out, and then absolutely this loop down here gets cut out. That'll take the course down from 3 miles, 3.2 to, let's say, 2.2 miles. Most middle schoolers will be doing 2 laps of this course. There is a 1 lap fun lap option, which coaches may recommend to some of our newer and beginner riders. We will talk about that on location, but going into the weekend, all the riders at this point should think, hey, we're just going out, we're having fun. Very much like the trails we've already ridden on in Pennypack. And you're going to do 2 laps. So you're actually going to start in this infield, you're going to roll through, you're going to come back through again. Your family will be there, your brothers and sisters going crazy. They'll cheer you through, and you'll head out for your 2nd lap and finish up. Any questions from anybody on the property?
John, do you want to point out where the warm-up track is, which is just like north of the right there? Yeah.
Yeah, where did
it's up in that field, just to,
in this field here?
yeah.
Right. So I'll talk a little bit about pre-ride, and then Jill, when she talks about the schedule, she can elaborate on kind of what that means. So, as everybody knows, we talk about this all the time. It's something we talked about at the beginning of the season when we did our webinars way back in March and April. But safety is our number one concern. You put a lot of trust and faith in us as coaches to take your kids out on the trails, so we take it seriously. Safety is our number one consideration when we're out there. That said, when you show up to do a mountain bike race, we never ever want to put a student athlete in a situation where they're in race mode on a course that they've never ridden before. We also want our riders to be comfortable. We want them to know, oh, this course is a piece of cake. I got this. There's 2 log overs. There's a little rock garden. There's some mud in this one section. Maybe there's a downhill. There's a little climb. So we do a couple things. One, as was that Coach Ian pointed out, we do warm the kids up on a part of the course that is not a part of the property that is not the course. So you can see here, even it looks like burned into the grass here. There's some loops. So when Jill talks about the schedule, we'll talk about the coaches and how they take the kids out, 40 minutes or so before their start time, and they'll do some laps here, get them warmed up. And then also before your warm-up ride, that's when we do a pre-ride. So pre-ride is when you get to the course, coaches actually in groups take the kids out onto the course to scope it out, to look at the terrain, to understand where the trouble spots are. It is not race pace. It's super chill, kind of scoping things out, talking it out. You might stop at a spot that's rocky and say, well, okay, what line would you choose? Would you go left? Would you go right? Pre-riding is mandatory. We ask that you plan your schedule accordingly so that you can get your student athlete there to pre-ride. Even if you're racing later in the day, it's really, really, really important that the kids see the course before they're put on it for pre-ride, or sorry, for their actual race. Any other questions? Any questions, comments about the course or the property before I hand it over to Jill?
Hey, John, if you're not camping, where can you park if you're just showing up?
For sure. So this grassy area here, this kind of little quadrant,
Yeah,
this is going to be parking for folks that are just coming in, not camping.
cool. Thank
So
you.
you just pull in, you tell them you're here for the day, and they'll shuttle you right there.
Cool.
All right. I'm going to pass the mic here to Jill. Jill, would you like to drive the screen share, or would you want me to just bring things up? What are you thinking?
I think if you just bring up the schedule from the Pickle website, that's enough.
Perfect.
So I just kind of want to back up a little bit and talk about, I guess we can talk about the schedule at the same time. So Friday, looking at it, you see that there are some pre-rides listed. Somont and Philly Whist officially, we are not able to staff those pre-rides. A lot of us are coming in from work. So that is going to be probably more for the teams that live closer. If you're there early and you say, oh, look, pre-ride's open, let me just go ride it, or, tell your kid to ride it. No athlete can be on the course without a coach. What?
Level 2.
It has to be a level 2 coach as a ride leader. And they have to have a race plate on. So for right now, we are saying that we, cannot staff that Friday pre-ride, but a lot of us are going to be coming in Friday. From past experience, I'm going to just ask everyone, all of us that are camping there, bring your patience, because check-in last year, it was just a line of cars pulling into the campground. It is, not only us, it's all the other teams too. Plus there are other people camping there this weekend that have nothing to do with this bike race. So we need to be respectful of everyone else, but hopefully they have more staff this year checking people in. But if you are camping with the group, or you got your own campsite, you will have to check in. Everyone camping with the group, we had to give your name to the campground. So, they should, have your name ready to go. They'll give you your parking pass, and then you'll go up to the hill. And as John said, previously, you're going to have to park right next to where your tents are, but you're not going to have tent and car right next to each other. So, you're going to make room for other people, because we are also not the only team on Burger Hill. There will be other people there. We are going to do our best to, get an area for the Somont Philly Whist families. Some coaches are going to get there early, look for the Somont Philly Whist flags, head, towards that way. But if another, family comes up and they're not Somont Philly Whist and they start setting their tent up on the hill, we can't say to them, hey, this is our area. It is a shared space. So just be prepared that it's going to be a long process there. So Friday night, once you get in, get your, tent set up and start hanging out with people, let the kids hang out, and, start getting ready for the next day. So Saturday morning starts pretty early. Middle school pre-ride officially starts at 8. We're saying for now around 8:15. We want to have all the kids meet at pit zone, and this would be the middle school kids. So middle school pre-ride. Your high school kids there, let them sleep in a little bit Saturday morning. So middle school kids, boys and girls, are going to meet at pit zone, and John showed you that map, at around 8:15 for us. At that point, we'll be giving out race plates, getting the kids into their groups, making sure they're ready to go, and heading out for that pre-ride. So, give them, they don't have to eat a huge breakfast beforehand, but, try to get them to eat something before they head down to the pre-ride, because they are going to be, out there riding. It's not, pre-ride is not race pace. We're not riding as fast as we can. We're riding slow. It's usually pretty crowded, but it's a chance for the kids to see the course. Another important thing about pit zone, when your athletes are, heading into pit zone, they cannot be riding their bikes. It's very crowded. There's lots of people going every which way. So once you enter into pit zone, and there's usually somebody there, a volunteer, reminding you of that, but you have to get off your bike and walk to the Somont and Philly Whist tents. All right. We will then take the kids out on their pre-rides in assigned groups. So the kids are assigned a category: 7th grade boys, 8th grade girls, whatever category they're in. There are at least 2 coaches, if not 3 coaches, assigned to each group. So they will be the point people for their riders in their category. So they'll take them on their pre-ride, show them, important spots on the course, make sure that they feel comfortable, and then go from there. So then once we're done pre-ride, then we're not all together anymore. So like at that point, even though we're in our groups, we're kind of all following the same schedule. Then at that point, for the rest of the day, we're following, getting each group ready for their race. So basically, staging is when we line them up, and the kids will get assigned a row and a wave, and this is where they need to put their bike to get ready to start. So that's what staging is, getting ready. The coaches for each group will know that. They'll have a list of where each kid goes. They will get the kids into their areas. Before we get them to staging, we want to get them ready to go. So the coaches in charge of that group will give each group a time to be at pit zone, to meet at pit zone. We're also going to have the schedule posted at Pit Zone. So if they're like, hey, I don't remember, it's going to be posted there. So they could, ride on or walk on down to Pit Zone, check the schedule to see what time they need to be there to show up. It's about 40 minutes usually before their staging time. And then the race starts usually about 15 minutes after staging. So kind of have a good hour that we're getting them ready. What are the coaches going to be doing to get your kids ready? They're going to be making sure their race plate's on their bike. They're going to remind them to go to the bathroom one last time before they get on the course. They're going to, help them check their tire pressure if needed. They're going to make sure they have water with them, make sure they're ready to go. Okay, so we're definitely looking out for the kids this whole time. Once we get them to staging, that's a good time for parents. You guys want to, watch the start. That's a great place, great, thing to watch. It's super exciting to see all those kids going off and their smiling faces. So that's super fun. And most of the time, if you watch your kids start, you can make it back to Burger Hill and you can see them come around Burger Hill as well. So you get to see them again. And then you could even make it back to the finish line to see them finish. So we've been there as parents running back and forth to try to catch them. So that's kind of part of the fun. If you're a student athlete and it's not your racing time, we want you to be, cheering on your teammates as well. So get to the start, it's super awesome when you're starting the race to see all of your teammates there, cheering you on, or when you come past an area to hear your name and to hear someone cheering you on. So that's like really super important to us as a team, that the other team members, when it's not your time to be racing or warming up or staging, that you're out there showing the support to the rest of the team. So lots of fun. We really encourage that. If you have, cowbells, maybe not noisemakers, we kind of had a little bit of they gave out noisemakers one year and it was very hard for the campers to sleep that night. But basically,
Migraine.
You see the different times. It kind of follows the same pattern. You're going to be asked to come down to Pit Zone about 40 minutes before your staging time. And then you're going to get ready for your race. So, we'll let the kids know what coaches are in charge of them. They'll know that morning. And like I said, everything will be posted in Pit Zone as well. At the end of the day, after all the racing is done, they have the awards ceremony. That's super cool to see, kids get celebrated. So, as many people that can come to that is great. And then after the middle school wraps up, now we're getting ready for high school to go. So high school kids, they've been cheering the middle school kids on all day. And now it's their turn. So around 3:30, they're going to come, the high school kids are going to come to Pit Zone and get with their groups. They're going to get their race plates. They're going to get their assigned coaches for their groups, and they're going to go out on their pre-ride for the afternoon to get ready for the next day. After pre-ride's done, we go, if you're camping, we go back to the campsite, relax, hang out, talk about the day, celebrate each other, have a good time. Sunday morning, pretty much, a repeat of the day before, except now we're doing high school. So there is a high school pre-ride very early, 7 a.m. Sunday morning. So if for some chance you are not able, your high school athlete is not able to pre-ride on Saturday afternoon, we would like them to pre-ride Sunday morning. So high school does have two options. We would prefer the Saturday afternoon, but if that absolutely doesn't work for you, it's going to be 7 a.m. You're meeting us at Pit Zone, ready to go. All right. Some pre-ride closes at 8, so it's only an hour. It's a short amount of time, and then the first race or the staging starts at 8:15 with racing starting at 8:30. So not a ton of time there. If you are a varsity or a JV3 boy, we would all prefer that you pre-ride on Saturday afternoon, but if you do have to pre-ride Sunday morning, that would be considered your warm-up. And then same thing, racing goes throughout the day. Those of you who aren't racing are cheering each other on. You're watching the clock to make sure, hey, I got to get to pit zone. It's almost time for my warm-up to start. You want to, help your student athletes think about like when they should be eating. Usually about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes before they race, you want them to eat something, just so that they have some fuel. They should kind of be drinking throughout the day, staying hydrated before their race. So, when they start going, they're not, parched. They shouldn't be eating, 2 bags of M&Ms right before they race either. So, think about food choices. For the high school kids, they're doing a longer course, and the higher up you get, the more laps they do. So sometimes for those athletes, it is very hard for them to carry enough water on them to make it through the whole race. When we looked at the map, you saw something called feed zone. That is the only place on the race course that an athlete is allowed to get another water bottle, exchange a water bottle, or get some food, a chew, a gel, or something like that. And that's really for the kids doing the most amount of laps. If your student athlete decides to use that feed zone, we have assigned coaches for each of the high school races who will be there or can be there. But you need to let us know, as a student athlete, as the student athlete's family, that you want to utilize that. And you need to give that coach your supplies. You need to give them your extra water bottle. You need to give them your food. So we won't have, water bottles and food for you, but you need to give them to us. But we will supply, the coach to be there to hand it off to you. And then, same thing at the end of racing for high school day, there is an award ceremony. We know it's a long weekend, everyone needs to get home, everyone needs to get ready for the week. But, especially if we have kids, who have podiumed and are getting awards, they really like to see as many, familiar Somont Philly Whist faces as possible. So, if you are able to stay for, the award ceremony, it's great. They're also usually looking for extra help at the end of the day to kind of clean up everything. So, they won't start the award ceremony until everything's cleaned up and ready to go. We have had complaints in the past at some of the locations about trash being left around. There are dumpsters on the campground that, we can utilize as campers, but we can't just leave trash just, sitting around in piles. So make sure that we, clean up after ourselves. Questions about the schedule?
And we will have water at pit zone, like
we will have some water, at pit zone that we will be supplying, but I wouldn't count on that to be your only water. It's just so you want to bring water and food for yourself.
What time is check-in on Friday? I'm sorry if I missed that.
What, at Granite Hill?
Yes.
Good question. I want to say 3 o'clock, but I'm going to double check that right now.
Is the traffic better if you get there early?
I would say last year it was just packed. So like the people who came really early were okay, but like I would say probably from 3 o'clock on, it was just a line of cars. Hopefully they've got more staff to help check people in this year, but it definitely was busy.
And any recommendations in terms of what to bring for camp? I mean, obviously a tent and sleeping bags and some chairs, and food, but any other recommendations in terms of camping equipment or anything like that?
Firewood.
Firewood. Okay, and what
Um,
kind of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, hey, this is John. I am Race Family is planning to get there on the earlier side, and I am planning to go back out and get firewood, a whole bunch on the team. But yeah, if you have firewood, you have room in your car, or see a stand on the side as you're pulling up, it wouldn't hurt. I just also
3
relate.
PM.
3
Sorry,
p.m.
3
perfect.
PM is the first time, is the earliest we can arrive. If you get there at 2, they're probably not going to turn you away, but technically 3.
And also, if you're camping in the group area, this is Brian. Hi, came in late, sorry. Be aware that the bathroom areas and showers are probably, I guess, like a 5-minute walk away. It's not an onerous walk, but bring shoes. You can throw on in the middle of the night if you have to make a bathroom run, and also bring shower shoes, of course, if you're going to take a shower.
What kind of activities do you do at night?
I
A
mean,
lot of razzing,
Burn stuff.
burn lots of stuff.
hang around. The kids sometimes sit around in circles and play games with each
Playground.
other.
Playground.
There's a playground there that the kids go, and kind of hang out. But it's really just hanging out. But it's pretty cool to see everyone hanging out.
The
It's
kids
pretty
kind
low.
of just disappear for them. That's one thing I always liked. Even, they just go and take care of themselves, which is
Yeah.
in this day and age kind of unusual to feel comfortable enough to let them do that. But we've never had a problem.
It's
Yeah.
pretty low. It's pretty low key in general, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's chill.
Just
There
I'm
is-
zooming in here on the map. Right, but everything back here is considered Burger Hill. Generally, what you end up having is a team on this side of Burger Hill, and then a team on this side of Burger Hill. There will be so many tents that I don't think we're going to have multiple fire pits. I mean, you can have multiple fire pits. We're going to, when I get there, we're going to try to cordon off, like, I think it's roughly in this area right here where my cursor is. I'm going to
Yeah.
put a big set of cones there in a big circle, basically saying around a fire pit, like basically saying no tents in this area. And then that will be kind of the main fire pit. Everybody gets together, kind of hang out by the fire pit.
And I think the actual parking area, John, isn't it that spot
It's
to the right
It's
there?
right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where
Yeah.
in order to, Jill mentioned that, like, we might have to move some of our cars over there, which is nice though, because it's like right there
Well,
anyway. So
Well, just let's be clear. It's not move them. There will be no cars in here.
I mean,
in
like,
this area.
yeah, unless people are dropping off crap or something, I guess. But
Right.
No.
But my understanding is I wasn't here last year, but there was a line of demarcation right here with a rope or something.
Yeah, there was.
A fence or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was a rope.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for those of you that are there early, hopefully we will just back right into that fence or that rope. And then those lucky folks will have easier access to their vehicle. But yeah.
There is a mini golf course there too. This was confusing to me the first time. They mentioned a mini golf course on their website, which I kind of would think was included in the campground, but it's not. It's an extra fee. But that is something the kids can do too if they want to give them a few bucks to go use the mini golf course. And I guess the pool was open last year too, or wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
In
Probably
years
depends.
past, it's definitely been open.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so hot that they'll probably have the pool open, I would assume.
There's like a little arcade there, a little like a pizza ice
Snack
cream
shop,
joint. Yeah, it's
So this is James. I have a question as the unprepared parent, not for me, asking for a parent that's not prepared and doesn't have a campsite and is planning to arrive on Sunday morning for that pre-ride. It's a nice ride here from Philly to get there, and we're up for the adventure, but concerned about getting the tags and everything in enough time for my friend's son to do his pre-ride. Any tips on where to like hit the ground running like the Monte Carlo race when we arrive to maximize that window? asking for a friend.
Yeah, was that James? Is that James?
That's me, yes.
Hey, James, John here. Yeah, look, I mean, if we know, it's good. Thank you for pointing that out. If we know you're coming Sunday morning only, and you're willing to put that 2 hours in at dawn, that's awesome. Thank you for telling us, and thank you for getting up early. I think
we-
just that the fact that we know is great, and we'll have things ready. I just zoomed into the map here. You know, you're basically going to pull in this road here, and they're going to send you to park in this parking lot. You know, dump whoever you have out real quick, make sure they're ready to ride, and come over into pit zone, which will
Yeah.
be somewhere over here. And it
and
should
we-
take us 30 seconds to get them ready.
All right, and we did this race last year, so we're somewhat familiar with the area.
Got it.
And I just haven't heard, this is not an online reservation system, and you know, I'm a bit of a procrastinator. So we'll see if they grant us a campsite. If we got one, we'll come the night before, and I'll let Matt know,
Gotcha.
head coach.
Sounds good.
I would allow at least 3 hours to get
Oh,
there,
yeah,
you know, between dropping off. So that means, you know, really the 7 a.m., you know, it's a very, Sunday morning is a, pardon me, a very limited pre-ride time. The
Yeah.
closing pre-ride at 8. So it's not like, you know, if we go out for pre-ride with a group, you know, hopefully, you know, if you are late and we have to find a coach, it might be able to happen, but you know, you're going to be leaving home at 4 a.m. So.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
hey,
Good on you.
James.
yeah.
This is Jill. I've been managing the group camping. I actually had 2 families back out today. So
Ooh.
if you wanted to join us in the group camping area, we can make that happen.
Why don't I text you after or call you after this general call and work that out?
We'll work it out. Okay.
It's $650 payable to the Liverpool family.
Well, that
just
4
so you
a.m.
know.
sounds really good right now.
Tell your friend, tell him how to spell it.
Really,
other
if
nice thing about
you just get me coffee in the morning. No.
It's worth it.
James, what year is your son in?
He's on the call, but he's embarrassed for me. He's a JV2.
Okay.
It's Everett. I've outed everybody.
Oh,
now.
right. Okay. Because I was
Yeah,
going to say,
okay.
like, if your kid's racing JV3, which starts at 8:15, you know, if you do a pre-ride at 7 and then they go right back out and race, it's almost like they're racing an extra lap, you know. So that's
Yeah,
inside the pre-ride
fortunately
on
it's
Sunday.
not that. It's JV2, so
So
it's later in the
a little
day.
later in the day.
After a nap, I suppose.
There's a
right.
Yeah, so I
question
just wanted
here.
to,
Go ahead.
sorry,
Yep, go ahead.
just wanted to add, this is Katie, as this is my son Noah McKenzie. We're kind of in the same boat, going to be arriving Saturday morning. But yeah, I'll send a note to his coach and John, I guess to you, just as a reminder, but we will plan to be there for the pre-ride Saturday.
Sounds good. Question about electricity, right? No electricity. I said, okay, I'm seeing the responses here. No electricity on Burger Hill. We do have some folks that do have campsites. So we can make things work once we're there in terms of go to campsite here. You'll be able to plug in and get some juice.
I may bring a
run an
generator.
extension cord from the Finks?
A really long.
I may bring a small generator too. So if so, I won't charge the $650. I'll charge what, $100 a plug, Brian.
you
So
go.
it's
There you go.
not quite as steep as your.
Stop trying to steal our money.
I
This is
know,
how we-
right? Sorry.
This is how we get by.
All right. Any other questions? Just a couple admin items. Or Jill, were you through most of your stuff, you think?
Yeah, I think we're through. Were you going to talk about volunteering?
Yeah, so
Connie?
just,
Okay.
yeah, so any other questions, just throw them out there or drop them in the chat too. We can respond that way. Let me just find my doc here of my notes, 1 second. right, Jill, I just had some administrative things. Jill talked about feed zone. Want to reiterate, any food that your student athlete's going to need during the day, before the race, after the race, the day before the race. If they're high school, you're camping, you're on your own. There are some services there as far as food, but you're just want to make sure you're responsible for your own food, whether that's lunches, sandwiches, or whatever. The team will have a little bit of stuff there in the event kid needs a little energy bar or something like that, but please, bring everything you're going to need to be self-sufficient. And that includes chairs and blankets. It also includes your own pop tents. So if you go back to maybe this map here, you can see that they did identify some family and spectator zones here. So there is a spot in here, big grassy area, which you can set up a pop tent or whatever. And really any spot along the course is viable. So just bring whatever you think you're going to need. That's cool. And then, like I mentioned, the league, for the most part, is a volunteer organization. There are a number of roles that are needed to power the weekend. We ask that if you're there for the weekend and your kid's racing on Sunday and you're there Saturday, consider signing up for a job. The jobs are varied. In terms of the role, they're usually short windows of time. So you can see here, and we'll make sure this link is sent out. Manning a volunteer table, helping with the flow of parking. You can see that's a 2-hour shift. Helping with actual setup of pit zone or of the infield. I mean, some of these are really cool jobs. So I ask, if you're there and you're up for it, find this link, sign up, make sure you put your team name in there. We do get credit for volunteers, and there's some acknowledgement at the end of the year. Finally, the last thing around volunteers, let me add that we haven't really talked about this much. Every race has what we call home teams. I'm trying to, anybody know what tab that appears in? Volunteer. Okay, here we go. So even though there really is no such thing as a home field or home field advantage, Pickle has established a framework where teams that are local to the venue, they are going to carry, in a sense, more of the volunteer weight because they're close. But that also means that other folks can still volunteer. And actually, we ask that other teams volunteer because there are so many fun jobs to do. So you can see here that here are the teams, for example, that are the host teams. There you go. They changed the vocabulary. Host teams for Granite Hill. And those are teams that mostly are in that area. Our host field is Allentown at Blue Mountain. And I believe all of our teams are together here. So all the Somons and Philly West. So would love to see everybody volunteer this weekend. Keep in mind that we are going to really be beating the drum when it comes to Blue Mountain in Allentown. That's where we're going to need to really have a good show of force. Also keep in mind, as I mentioned, with strength in numbers as far as student athletes, 82 riders also then carries a little bit of weight when it comes to us providing some level of an equivalent amount of volunteers. So awesome. Thank you for considering volunteering. It's the weather is looking really good. Temperatures are remaining way nicer than they've been, and I think we're going to have a fantastic weekend. So any other final questions or comments as we wrap up here?
John, can I have 30 seconds just to, especially for the newer racers, concerning making sure bikes are race ready? We sent out a note to some parents. We did a bike check, at least in the Somod teams. I guess last week, and identified some kids that needed some things fixed on their bikes. So if you got one of those notes, please make sure that stuff is done. We always have kids that show up at races with dry and rusty chains. We had somebody show up at a race last year literally with bald front and rear tires, and I had to switch out their tires. So I just ask all the parents to, in particular, take a look at their kids' bikes. Even if you don't know much about bikes, you can tell if like the tires are bald or if the chain's rusty, stuff like that. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, or at least bring it. If the chain's rusty and we need to lube it when they show up, we don't prefer to do that. We prefer to have it done before you come, but if push comes to shove, at least bring it to our attention so we know we can take care of that proactively rather than 10 minutes before the kids race, which quite often happens. Ask any of us coaches if you have questions before practice. We can, or after the practice, we can help you out with that.
Any more questions? I'm just bringing a couple other things up, visuals to show, but any other questions, throw them out there. All right, couple other really small things. So we have published links to this the fan store. So Glynis, my wife, has put together the fan store. This just went online. I believe it closes on the 12th, and then a couple weeks after that, everything will get shipped to the head coach, who will then distribute. So there's lots of cool stuff for both teams, Philly West and for Somont. So please look for those links. And anybody can buy the stuff. Grandma, grandpa, brothers, sisters, moms and dads. I see a link, a question from Adam about coach responsibilities. That was emailed out, I believe, last night. So Adam, check a Team Snap email, but the coaching staff led. Go ahead, Joe.
Adam, I think, is on Philly West. Is that right?
He is.
Correct.
Yeah, so I only sent it out to Somont coaches because that's the assignments that I had. So I'll leave
Oh, that's right.
I'll leave the Philly
Thank
West assignment questions to Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
And then last point here, I just, as we're winding down, seems like we're going to have practice tomorrow. Things seem to be drying out a bit. I believe both squads have a policy of lights being an absolute requirement for practice tomorrow. So please keep that in mind. Not only lights, but lights that are charged. So if you're planning to come to practice tomorrow, which I hope you are, please make sure your student athlete has a light. If you have questions about lights, post a question up or stop in your local bike shop, any of the Trek stores, Keswick Cycle or Circle Cycle.
And this is the week we started Rockledge, right, John? This is Mark.
That's correct. Somont now will start at Rockledge Park at the end of the rail trail, avoiding the challenge of getting out of Larmer before the gate closes. Yes.
You're right there, Brian.
All right. We're winding down here. Any final comments or questions? All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. And any questions? I saw that. Any comments, questions, fire them out, email, social media, and see you this weekend.
Thank you.